You have just seen a video discussing how the discount rate is calculated and why it is important. Your instructor may have also directed you to view the calculation of the weighted average cost of capital. This segment explains why operating versus capital lease determination is important to financial reporting and describes 4 tests that reveal whether a lease is a capital lease. You will also walk through a scenario where a user is evaluating the possible effect of terminations on their capital lease tests. In this segment, we will explain the importance of operating lease versus capital lease determination. Describe the characteristics of operating leases and capital leases under GAAP guidelines. Describe the 4 tests used to determine if a lease is a capital lease. Perform the calculations needed in a sample scenario. To determine the impact of various lease termination options on the capital lease determination.
Peter, I've been a real estate broker for a long time and specialize in representing local and national corporations and their real estate needs. And when I go out, I try and find several options for their new facilities, existing real estate or build-to-suit options. And it's interesting that the best all-around option many times is not the option that the company chooses. In fact, they'll go and choose something that is a lesser option, but the conversation keeps going around lease characteristics and classifications.
A great point, Susie, and that's largely because corporations have to worry about how a leasing transaction ultimately affects their financial statements, which affects their shareholders through their profits. And depending on how a lease transaction is classified, that can actually have pretty substantial impacts on the health of that company in a financial way. So in my role as a real estate director for a large company, my job is to ensure that the option we select not only meets the business needs, but that the lease is also structured in a way that doesn't trigger any angst from the treasury group or financial reporting groups. And it's especially true in the case of a long-term lease agreement, because it can potentially trigger a lease to be classified as either an operating lease or a capital lease.
If I understand you correctly, well, a lease for a facility might be the best option, even though the landlord requires a little bit longer lease, say 15 or 20 years. A company may choose a different option because of accounting.
That's exactly right. Any company that produces a set of audited financial statements, they learn how that lease is classified. All the rule-setting organizations in the U.S. and internationally, they come up with criteria on how to determine where a lease falls within the rules. An operating lease is viewed more as a typical operating expense, while a capital lease is looked at more like a financing arrangement. And those rules apply to all leases, whether it's a copier, an auto, a computer, or a real estate lease.
So if you could boil it down in simple terms, just how exactly do we determine what the classification of a lease is?
I'll do my best. I'm not a CPA and the rules change often, but typically an auditor looks at the term of lease, they look at the total minimum net rental payments, they look at any options that are in the lease, and they look at the value of the asset that is being leased to determine how the lease is going to be classified. And the main goal of these tests is what we call substance over form, or you might hear it referred to as a duck principle, that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it might be.
I want it's a
Exactly. So lease document contains a long enough if it has options that make it appear like it's more of a financing arrangement than a lease, or the value of the lease itself is such a high proportion in relation to the asset that's being leased, it could appear to an auditor to be a capital lease.
So that makes good sense. But what's the big deal about a capital lease anyhow?
It all has to do with how that lease appears on our financial statements again, because typically an operating lease has a very steady effect on the income statement on the company and little to no impact on their ability to borrow money. On the other hand, a capital lease, it can be front-loaded in the expense world, kind of like interest on your mortgages. At the same time, it appears as that appearance of debt can limit the ability of the company to borrow money.
It would seem that it would make a lot of sense to actually sit down with your client and discuss what they need up front. If they have concerns with the term of the lease, or the options, or the structure of the agreement overall. Obviously, many landlords wouldn't want to accept a lease from someone on a build-to-suit that's short-term because of the cost of construction and the financing.
Yep. So what I need from my representatives in that case is to be flexible, and I need to be knowledgeable too. I want them negotiating on my behalf, understanding that I, like most companies, want to avoid a capital lease because of what it does to my financial statements. So if they know the main rules of how a lease is tested, they ultimately can put together some options for me early in the process and keep the landlord informed on what my needs are.
Well, I sure appreciate your time.
And
Here is an overview of the basic characteristics of operating and capital leases and how they affect users' financial reports. Standardized guidelines determine whether a lease is classified as an operating lease or a capital lease. Auditors use 4 tests to determine whether a lease is a capital lease. Click on any of the tests on the left to learn more about it. A user is considering signing a 20-year lease because it is in the best interest of the company to control the property for the long term at a lower rental rate of the long-term lease. Review the information below to see how a user may view various occupancy alternatives in efforts to have a lease classified as an operating lease. This slide illustrates the changes in the present value of the minimum lease payment based on the alternative scenarios users consider. It's important to keep in mind that any termination option must be assured to be exercised when the lease is signed in order for it to be valid for inclusion in the 90% test. This scenario assumes that in alternatives 1 and 2 that the user is planning to exercise the termination options in each alternative. You have just seen a video explaining why operating lease versus capital lease determination is important and learned about the 4 tests that determine if a lease is classified as a capital lease. You also examined various termination options that could have had an effect on this termination for one user. In the next segment of this course, you will perform a learning activity in which you'll analyze operating leases and capital leases on your own.